it. There is no rush to conclusions, while we are still presenting the issues. This is working like a temporary model that is being expanded and known better in the process. The model of the hollow earth still must stand several tests of logic, and several concepts need to be brought to the rational dissecting table and be checked against each other. The same applies to the solid earth model, by the way. So, this is a work in progress. I share the process with you, the reader. You cannot really participate in it actively, because it is my show, but you also have no idea beforehand what the outcome is going to be, because I don't have an idea. I am neither a proponent nor a debunker. Ultimately, this is not about whether a hollow earth and hollow planets can be proven to be true or not, because by the end of this hollow earth series you might still not have the ultimate answer to the ultimate woo-woo, but you may have learned something about other realms of this mystery, that of being human, and giving a boot. There is always the possibility that we have to retract from the hollow earth and get back on traditional solid ground, including solid mantle and core, so we better not burn all the scientists all the way to a crisp, not just yet. If they happen to be right, these mainstreamers who decide which hypothesis is presented as the ultimate truth to the unwashed masses, then the vast body of evidence for hollow planets has really been very cleverly presented, folks, and has fooled a few of us who tried to check it out. And we humbly retreat and admit that certain stuff happens. But the scientists still can't have that their peer review process, that one is birthed beyond recognition. And while we are talking about heat, man-made global warming, or FGW, has something to do with it. Snellsburg in here. FGW may now, and quite rightfully so, be called man-made global fact birding. That Torus with a pronouncement actually escaped them. Thanks, it was very telling. While great snafu equals situation normal, all F number $% F up. Man-made global warming in perspective. The Copenhagen 2009 Climate/Checkmate Summit featuring Barry Soetoro and the Norway Spiral, as the main sideshow was about to cheerfully levy global carbon taxes on carbon-based life forms already paying, till they illegal, taxes to a criminal cartel like there was no tomorrow. But there is one. The same future as the definition for meditation. It's not what you think in this series. You will find several instances where we seem to digress into lateral areas and side issues. Meaning, I digress, but I take you with me for the ride. This is entirely necessary in order to somehow make it out of the woo-woo corner, as none of these hollow arguments and facts seem to stick. It is most certainly not a lack of respect for you, since we have already said bye-bye to all those readers who got to the wrong website and or wrong article. Till this one, we can relax and breathe deeply. The morons have left the building. You see, the problem is, among other problems with humans, that you cannot get most people to just shut up and listen and pay attention for 5 minutes. They start arguing from the get-go, as if there was money to be made just by arguing. They must have watched too much TV and their brains are munching much or something. Or they agree that, if their mouths stop moving then their brains might start working. What kind of a discussion is that? Some ultimate true lies. Here are examples of the Fuchsian's truths, since you asked for them. The origin of humans, and so-called Darwinism and evolution being used, tilde mangled, actually, to try to explain if Einsteinism and relativity theory being schlepped around to explain space-time. They don't, and relativity does not line up with either quantum physics or the Bell non-locality. Of course they don't admit this. Whatever is totally woo-woo in the world of credentialed science is simply put at the bottom of the stack. Ignored. Silly little dances go on around these woo-woo questions in case you insist on getting an answer. The Federal Reserve. It is not federal but private. It has no reserves but prints money out of thin air. It is not part of your use of the government, but an independent entity owned mostly by non-US citizens. Since 1913. Same people who have taught Nikola Tesla. One more. The origin of petroleum is not what you have been told. It is not based on dead forests, dinosaurs and plankton that got turned into black goo that burns and costs a lot. Petroleum is formed in the depths of the Earth's underbelly, where sufficient heat and pressure exists to cause the chemical process, and it seeps up from there. Tilde remember, it is lighter than water. It is not a non-renewable resource that can be priced like any, tilde artificially, scarce commodity. Peak oil is complete bullshit. We will not run out of oil, but we will run out of patience if we do not start fighting back against the outrageous lies that surround our average views of the world. How about fluoride in your water to protect your teeth? How about natural cures and prevention for cancer, like vitamin B17? What about that yellow cake? What about this and that illegal war? What about the UFOs and them aliens? How about all of this? WTF tilde where's the facts? You get the idea, you are being fooled whichever way you care to look. My scientist horse, in the case of cold and hard facts, and by the media propagation of politicians and assorted people of authority run by the social engineers, in the case of the warm and soft facts. Yes, it is rather pathetic. The biggest problem I see, and this is just my personal take, is the fact that once you start realizing that you have been had, you lose your apparently firm ground under your feet. And we all need to stand somewhere, don't we? It is much more convenient for the inherently lazy human to just call the messengers of these facts subversives, loonies, conspiracy nuts, amateurs, and worse. The facts, for those who care. This is what David Pratt replied to a reader's email. My kinda bye. Date, the 24th of November 2007. Dear Tilda, so and so, you're saying that the potentially valuable information on my website will become totally uninteresting and the work of a charlatan, unless I've been to a university. I like your sense of humor. I have university qualifications in modern languages, translation, and technical sciences. But I regard this as irrelevant, because I think that what anybody says or writes should be judged on its intrinsic merits. Many of my articles are about fundamental differences of opinion between scientists with equally excellent credentials in a particular field. So a university education does not preclude serious errors, even in one's own specialism. I'm also a great believer in self-education. Regards, David Pratt. So, this is an ongoing research project, the revisited hollow earth theory, the ultimate woo-woo thing to do. End of lines, for now. Source 8. The polar body of evidence has been very important to the development of the modern Hollow Earth theory. In fact, the observations of the polar explorers of yesteryear brought new life to ancient folklore to this effect, folklore of the Tibetan, Hindu and the Nordic civilizations. For example, Marshall B. Gardner, in A Journey to the Earth's Center, cites Lord Barrington in his communication with the Royal Society. Thusly Barrington recalled to the Royal Society that as early as 1663 its secretary at that time had examined a traveler lately returned from Greenland, and that this traveler had told of a Hollander captain who claimed that he had come within half a degree of the pole, and corroborated it by showing his journal, the entries being attested by his mate. Now, in view of later explorations, it does not matter just how accurate the sailor was. The point is simply that even in those early days it was possible to get much nearer the pole than was supposed at the time, and simply for the reason that the water was open, as one went north. But Barrington had instance after instance of the same kind. He mentioned in particular two Hollander whalers who in the 17th century sailed to 89 degrees and found no ice but free and open sea. In 1754, one Mr. Stevens, on board a Dutch whaler, noted that he did not find the cold excessive, and used little more than common clothing, and met with but little ice. Arctic anomalies such as these inspired the notion that openings to a warmer world lay somewhere within the Arctic region. As early as 1818, former Captain John Clive Sims of Ohio was actively promulgating the idea that the Earth was hollow, and the Norwood Review of England, in its issue of May 10, 1884, reported, "We do not admit that there is ice up to the pole. Once inside the Great Ice Barrier, a new world breaks upon the explorer. The climate is mild like that of England, and afterwards, balmy like that of the Greek Isles." In Philippians 2:10, we find this reference, that at the name of Jesus every knee shall bow of things in heaven, and things in earth, and things under the earth. This quote from Philippians mentions that knees of things, creatures, shall go. These things are all alive. Among these are included the things which live under the earth. Is this a reference to subterranean life? In the book of Revelations, 5:3, we find a similar statement, but this time it specifically mentions subterranean humans, and no man in heaven, nor in earth, neither under the earth, was able to open the book, neither look thereon. The suggestion here is that there are also men under the earth. A gentleman by the name of Paul Dadolf contacted me one day to inform me that he had done a comprehensive study of the Bible to see whether there were any biblical references to a hollow earth. He did this as an exercise for his friends and family. He ended up writing a 170-page book called On the Face of the Deep. Dadolf told me he believes the following reference indicates the existence of a polar hole in the Arctic. In Job 26:7, in the Old Testament, one reads, "He stretcheth out the north over the empty place, and hangeth the earth upon nothing." In the book of Enoch 76:6-7, we read, "7 rivers I beheld upon earth, greater than all rivers, one of which takes its course from the west, into a great sea its water flows, to come from the north to the sea, their waters flowing into the Earthrian Sea, on the east, and with respect to the remaining 4, they take their course in the cavity of the north, to their sea, the Earthrian Sea, and to are poured into a great sea, where also it is said there is a desert." In Plato's Republic we find mention of a god who sits at the center of the earth who is responsible for our religions. The Tibetan Buddhists also have references to a vast underground empire populated by millions of people and ruled by a man called Rinpoche, and also referred to as the king of the world. The empire is called Agartha and its capital city is Shambhala. A Hindu gentleman once wrote me an email from India and told me that Hindu scriptures also mention a vast underworld. Note, left square bracket, the Puranic narrations of the sons of Sagara and their pursuit of the sacrificial horse, as well as the narration of the appearance of the Kavi avatar take place in the hollow portion of the earth. Right square bracket. In the early days of my interest in the hollow earth theory I stumbled upon an Eskimo legend of the hole in the sea. Could this be a reference to a polar hole? Some people like Theodore Rillian and Nicholas Roerich tried to find this underground empire earlier this century. Roerich's discussions with a Tibetan Lama priest in 1928 resulted in him being told that if you go far enough north then you will see a reflection from the underground empire, Aurora. He was also told that the entrance to the underground empire lay far across the sea. What this Tibetan was saying was indeed very similar to what one would expect from the hollow earth theory. In recent years another Tibetan Lama who visited the USA stated that Agartha could be reached by flying directly north from India. Could it be that a polar hole somewhere in a northern ocean leads one straight into a vast underground empire within the earth? Source 9. Till the big props and shout out to 1 trillion. Hyperborea and the quest for mystical enlightenment. Far north, somewhere near the icy regions of the North Pole, legend speaks of an ancient and mostly forgotten civilization. Mythical in character, the Hyperborean civilization is said to have flourished in the northernmost region of planet Earth at a time when the area was suitable for human habitation. According to certain esoteric systems and spiritual traditions, Hyperborea was the terrestrial and celestial beginning of civilization, the home of original man. Some theories postulate Hyperborea was the original Garden of Eden, the point where the earthly and heavenly planes meet. And it is said man transgressed divine law in this golden age civilization, the ultimate price being his banishment to the outside world. Man ventured into other regions of Earth, establishing new civilizations, bringing to an end this great and glorious golden age. The Golden Age is central to manifold ancient traditions and myths. Significantly, the Golden Age appears most frequent in the traditions of cultures stretching from India to northern Europe and the area directly beneath the polar regions. Jocelyn Godwin, in Arctis, The Polar Myth in Science, Symbolism and Nazi Survival, says, "The memory or imagination of the Golden Age seems to be a particularity of the cultures that cover the area from India to northern Europe ellipsis points, but in the ancient Middle East there is an obvious relic of the Golden Age in Genesis, as the Garden of Eden, where humanity walked with the gods before the fall. The Egyptians spoke of past epochs ruled by godkins. Babylonian mythology ellipsis points had a scheme of 3 ages, each lasting, while the vernal till the spring equinox persists through 4 signs of the zodiac. The first of these, under the dominion of Enu, as a golden age, ended by the flood. The Iranian Avesta texts tell of the 1,000-year golden reign of Enu, the first man and the first king, under whose rule cold and heat, old age, death death and sickness were unknown. The most fully developed theory of this kind, and probably the oldest one, is the Hindu doctrine of the